Hi, welcome to our second. Is this season 1, second episode of
Season 1.
Download?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
The second episode of season 1. Yeah, I'll get it eventually. What's going on, guys? We got Nick here. We got Riva. We got Kryptonian down there sporting his shirt. Greek is here. Greek's busy traveling, doing. He's in his car, but he said he'd join us. NR and Odie. Wow, we got a full house here, and we have Fowler that's on his way. So,
hey Chris, can I take a quick second to do a shout out? I'd like to give a shout out to my little baby girl from 32 years ago. She is 32 today.
And that mullet from 32 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That is just ouch. Hey, I thought
it explains the wig he used to wear.
Yeah, there you go.
I know, right?
There you go.
Just cover that up. Yeah, but yeah, much love to you, man. My baby.
32 years. Congrats, man. Like I said, wish her
You're
happy
a good
birthday.
daddy, man. You're a good daddy.
Yeah, thanks.
that's some great. That's some. Also, she's 32 today.
Today, yeah, and tomorrow, yeah, today. Yep.
That's
so birthday
awesome.
party this weekend, and yeah, it'd be fun.
So she's having a birthday party this weekend?
Yeah. Gonna have all the kids and the grandkids over and stuff.
You still don't take her to like Chuck E. Cheese, do you? You don't do that kind
No,
of birthday.
that was last year, bro.
Okay. There's a certain age where they just don't want to go anymore. So
No, we didn't go to Chuck E. Cheese at
31?
all. 5 of my kids were growing up. As that's one place I refuse to go to. That's just a headache. So no, we never did Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, I actually did my kids had friends that had birthdays there. I was like, man, this is crazy.
So did mine, and I said, my wife.
What does the E stand for? Does anyone know what the E stands for?
Good question.
I don't know. What does it?
Entertainment, maybe?
E. Cheese.
Yeah, you got it. It's Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I'm so old. I remember when it used to be Showbiz Pizza. That's what I remember.
That's right. It was.
You're so old. Really?
You're so old.
So old.
When you
I'm old enough to be
half
your
century
dad.
mark, then you can say you're old.
Okay. So I have had one birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. Okay, all right. I was a kid. All right, it wasn't my choice.
Full disclosure. Though.
Full disclosure.
That's awesome.
There it is.
Well, Nick, we got quite a few people that are tuning in. I think people have had time to settle in and to get ready. Are you ready to jump into your presentation and give us our download for the week?
Yes, but before I do that, I want to show you something that I won't be doing. My dad got me something from back home in India, a childhood toy of mine, a harmonica.
Oh, nice.
I will not be playing that.
No, you can't do that, Nick. No,
that's like me.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Oh, man.
No.
All right.
We will lose our audience immediately.
So here's
sad.
my thought process going here, Nick. Okay. So why don't we come up with some type of charity where people do a charity to get Nick to do the harmonica? How about that?
I think that's cool.
Raise funds for something so that Nick does that.
That make it challenging. I have to do young folks. You know that Bjorn song, Young Folk? I suck at that too.
Yeah,
the whistle tune. It's a really nice tune. I love that track.
How about if we sell
Hey, it's a
X
crazy-
amount of boosters, Nick will play the harmonica.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah, it's a creator's blockchain, right? We're a creator's blockchain. You're
X
creating
amount of
now. You got
booster
your
sales,
harmonica.
and Nick comes on live and plays the
I
harmonica.
have no issues with doing things, making a fool of myself for a good cause. I'm always up for that.
That's good. You fit right in then, Nick.
Yeah.
You fit right in.
Yeah, I tend to do that at least weekly with Chris.
Yeah,
Make a
yeah.
fool of myself. So for the
Well,
people,
I mean, to be honest, you make it kind of easy though.
Right. Right.
I do.
Effortless.
I don't put a lot of effort
you know.
into it. So
I am who I hang around.
Are you ready to
go?
Present your presentation.
Rock and roll. All right. Well, welcome to season 1, episode 2 of Vitruveo Download. I'm Nick Kalyani, your strategic council lead. And what I have for you today is an action-packed segment because this has probably been one of the busiest weeks. This prior week, we've achieved a lot of things. And I'm very excited to share some of this news with you. Let's get going. So the agenda for today is we're going to go through our highlights, council updates, our financial update. Then we're going to do something called a Nexus NFT and cap table. Get into what that means. We'll talk about our launch plan, which is something new. And then we'll do a community Q&A. So these are questions that have come from Discord and other places that we have curated. And then finally, we'll do some live Q&A. Look, we've been waiting a long time for this moment, and I'm really, really excited to say that our testnet v0.5.1 is live. So that is the big news for today, and I'll be showing it to you. I'll be demonstrating some aspects of it today. What's important about this is that we have essentially removed all the aspects that we are no longer using and have added the new features that is specifically the dynamic rebasing. So I want to show that to you today. The other thing is we have the legal green light for DAO. I'm going to talk more about that also. And we have the legal green light for booster sale. So 3 very, very important things have transpired this week. And I'm very excited to share the details with you and a whole host of other things. Today, also with me is going to be Riva, who is our marketing council lead, and she's going to show some stuff also. What I want to do at these updates with the download, the weekly updates, is each time also bring on a couple of the leads that have significant news or significant updates. That way, it's just not me boring you every week. You know, you got some variety and some interesting people to see also. All right, with that done, let's get right to the first update, Technology Council. So the testnet is operational. The Explorer deployment and branding is in progress. I expect that to happen any day, like in hours perhaps. And we are committed to having the repos now public and available to you. Here's the URL for the current repo. I'll be going over that also with you. But let me stop right there and actually just dive right into showing you the code and showing you the console for the running nodes, and also add some wallets and look at some things like that. So I'm going to get out of full screen mode here, and I'm going to switch right away to the repo. So let me go ahead and first go to the root here. All right, so if you go to the repo, let me zoom in a bit here also so it's clear. So what we did was we took a more recent snapshot of the Go Ethereum code, and we updated that with all our changes. So the changes are quite pervasive, but I'd like to draw your attention to one folder here called Rebase. So this has a module here that is our primary changes that have been made. So let's look at it in raw mode here. Well, actually, the raw doesn't have the color coding, so we'll leave that up here. But I'll zoom in some more. But basically, this is the main Rebase code. And you can see, well, the developers among you can see that there is processing, etc., going on around transaction counts. So that, like this epoch transactions, that's the counting of the transactions within the last epoch, which is 17,000 blocks. And then based upon that, there is a rebase that occurs or doesn't occur. Now, I don't expect to go through this code. This is not a developer presentation, but we can certainly do that someday. But essentially, you can see here that there's a conditional that if the transaction ratio exceeds 75%, which is our range, right? Our range is 25% below 100 and 25% above 100 is the range. And that's when rebasing occurs. So you can see that code here. Now, the way we achieve that, this is actually quite interesting. Earlier, we were thinking that we would be able to just use a lookup table, etc. But because it's dynamic, we can't do that, right? What we need to do is to be able to look back at the past 17,000 blocks and determine what all the transactions were, like count them out. Now, initially, we were just trying to do it on the fly, like each block, or that's a rebasing, epoch block, to count the past 17,280 blocks. But that turned out to be, from a performance standpoint, a terrible nightmare. It was too slow. And so we've actually modified the core Ethereum here, the blocks actually, to create new fields in the block header. Let me show you. So I'm going to search for the file block.go, which is right here. Okay, let's zoom this in a little bit. And I want to show you that here, these here are the standard Ethereum fields, the ones I've highlighted. What we've added to the blocks are 5 fields, which essentially tell you which epoch it is going on, how many transactions have been accumulated in that epoch as of that block. Then what is the rebasing index? What is the rebasing epoch? Because there might be times when an epoch occurs, but because we fail to meet the transactional goals, an epoch a rebase doesn't occur. So we track that separately. And guess what? One of the big challenges for a rebasing protocol is, what is the current circulating supply? Well, that's always very iffy to get. We decided, why not just build it right into the block header? So at any given point in the history of the blockchain, you can look at a block and you can see what the supply was at that particular block. So I'm sure the developers among you are going to go through this and look at all of that. As I said, my intent was to just highlight the fact that the code is now there for you to look at, and also some of the high level changes. But what I want to do is actually show you the protocol in action. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my console window here, and I'm going to connect live to the remote running server. Now, I typed in these commands earlier because I would forget them. So here we go. I'm going to SSH. So SSH just means remotely connect. Let me zoom that in so you can see that a little better. So we're going to do that. And here we are. So we are now connected to the remote node, actually, the validator node. So I'm going to change to this folder here, cd node RPC. I'm there. And then I'm going to do tail -f no hub. This is just Unix standard Linux commands. But here we go. What we are doing now is we are looking at a live snapshot of the validator. And you will see that it's basically got the same header fields that I was talking about. They're kind of visible here in the console because we are printing them out to the log. Now, I'll keep this open here for a second, and we'll get back to it. But what I wanted to also show you is, typically when you have a protocol like this and you launch it, you have a Genesis file. Our Genesis file is not yet ready, and you're going to have a chance actually to look at it and to approve it. So what we have right now is a very simple Genesis file, and what we have in here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 accounts, and we've kind of distributed the tokens among them to add up to sort of 50 million, which is what our eventual total is. So what I thought I would do is, live here, I would connect to the testnet and add these accounts, and we would see them rebasing as we see the console also. So what I have here is the Ethereum mainnet here on this. This is a brand new MetaMask. I haven't done anything. I'm going to show you how I can go ahead and connect to our test RPC on testnet and get that going. So let's do that. Let's go add network. And I need to go here and say add a network manually. So let's call this the Vitruveo testnet. The RPC URL, which I have memorized, is test-rpc.vitruveo.xyz. The chain ID is 14333. The currency symbol is VTRU. The Explorer is not yet live, so I won't put that in, but I can hit save. And boom, we are now connected to that. So hit save. Obviously, the account I have on my MetaMask has no Vitrus to it because it's not one of the accounts that are in the Genesis here. So this, let's add one of these accounts. So I am going to grab the private key for that, and let's go ahead and say import account, paste the private key, and there we have it. So this is account AD5 ending in BE92. So wrong tab. So that's 85 ending in BE92. That's that account. And the initial balance was 20 million, but you can see here that it's climbed quite a bit. Now, that's because it's rebasing. In testnet, right now, the very first release that we put out there, we have highly accelerated rebasing. We have actually rebasing occurring every 25 seconds. So, and let's get back to my console here, and this will make a little more sense here. But you can see it says sometimes rebasing skipped, and sometimes it probably, let's see where, it should show sometimes that the rebasing occurred. So what we are doing is we are having a random sort of number of transactions being thrown at it, and sometimes the rebasing is skipped, and sometimes the rebasing happens. And it's been running for a while now. You can see that we are at epoch 1328. So this account has basically rebased significantly because of the accelerated time frame that we've put on the rebasing. So similar to that, I can add other accounts also. Let's just add one more account. Import account. Let me grab the private key of it and put that in there. And here we go. So this one is 4D4 ending in 0099. So which one is that one? That's the second one here. So that had 7.5 million Vitrus in it initially, and now it's at 13. So you're seeing what would be the accelerated rebasing in, like, I don't know, two or 3 years here happening in a very short amount of time. So what we're going to do now is this is our first sort of testnet that we are releasing out there. We're going to do a couple of updates to it. Then we're going to have the faucet, so you can also start testing it. Right now, you can probably connect to it, but because you don't have the private keys for these accounts, you won't be able to do much. But give us a day or two. We will probably update it again, and you're going to have your faucet, and you're going to be able to also do exactly what I did here. So exciting news. We have testnet up and running, and from here, it's a very short journey to mainnet RC1. We have to test, and do some more testing. Some minor changes, which I'm going to talk about here later. But we are there, folks. We are there. The infrastructure is being deployed, and everything is looking good. Let me get back to my presentation now. All right. So this was a major milestone for us, and September 22nd, 10 a.m. Yep. Let's keep that in mind. Okay. So that's the Technology Council update. There's a lot of other things they're also working on, which I will get into shortly. But here we go. Let's go to the next update, which is the Strategy Council. Now, that's me, my council, and I've been meeting a lot with Jamelia, and also with partners, etc., to try and move things along faster. So here's the thing. We now have a foundational letter for the DAO established. We also have secured legal approval for the booster plan. Day before yesterday, I met with one of the largest KYC companies, which incidentally was an investor in my prior startup, so I know them very well. And so now some of these contacts are coming to bear, where we will be able to do KYC for the artists. Because if you remember from the pitch around how the creator onboarding works, we want to make sure that there are degrees of KYC for the creators, starting with as simple as mobile number and going on to more progressive. Because one of the things about this blockchain is trust. We want the traditional creators to really trust it, and they don't trust anything right now because there's so many scammers, there's fake art, all of that. We want to be the trustworthy protocol. And so KYC at some level is mandatory if you're going to have an asset that's in our asset registry. In the token gated channels now, we are having great conversations with the validators and the backers. We are looking at revenue projections. We are tossing ideas around, and we are coming up with what is a fair model. We are not quite there yet, but I hope this week, I guess that's the coming week. I hope in the coming week to accelerate those discussions and finalize it and just get them done. What I want to make sure is that we create a flexible plan, that we can adjust as things change and new information becomes available. Because one thing I know from running startups is that we can't predict the future. We can't predict a lot of things that can happen. And so you don't want to create a plan that like gets you stuck in a corner, right? You want to have something that's very flexible and very fair. And I'm really excited about the planning that we're doing right now. It's coming together, and hopefully this time next Friday, I can have finalized the plan, and we can even bring some of the validator leads on here, and we can have them also talk about it. Okay, so another thing we are doing is drafting the business requirements for Vitruveo Studio. So Vitruveo Studio is the most critical dApp from the perspective of creators on our protocol. Why? Because Vitruveo Studio is their entry point. That's where they establish themselves as a creator, and that's where they register their assets. Now, we've been working with an offshore team around that, and I'll have some really good news to report on that very soon. But let's just say that Vitruveo Studio's development is going to be greatly accelerated. And already we are at the point where we've nailed down exactly what the MVP, minimum viable product features are at mainnet. Next, we have to establish a dual signatory protocol for the DAO. What that means is, we're going to have a DAO entity, and we're going to have the DAO. Establishing what is the relationship between the two, who can sign for what, etc., is the thing that we are discussing. My vision is that the entity that we create is simply taking instructions from the DAO council. So the DAO council says, do this, and the entity goes and does that. That's roughly the idea. But you have to take into account that the signatories who will be in this entity are also sort of have a little bit of liability. So we have to make sure that it's not sort of carte blanche on that. There have to be some caveats around that. And the DAO council, for example, cannot tell the DAO entity to do anything illegal. That we wouldn't want anything like that. So that framework is being crafted right now, and I'll talk more about that. Last but not least, as part of our strategic discussions, we are starting to remove some of the working titles we had, like the OG NFT. That is now going to be called Nexus. Nexus meaning the hub of everything, the crux, the centerpiece of everything. And also the DEX token is going to be one letter off from the cryptocurrency, the coin. The coin is VTRU, and the DEX token will be VTRO. I am sure some creative types will see that these are the vowels, and maybe we will have a VTRA, VTRE, and VTRI, or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. But we are going to have VTRU and a VTRO. So those are some decisions that are made. And as we go through here, this presentation, I'll get into more detail around that specific DEX token. All right. The next update we have is from our ecosystem council. It says operations team there. It should say community team. Sorry about that. We got this deck done at the last moment. So what we are doing now is we are starting to publish daily stand-up highlights on Discord. Folks, one of the things I committed to very early on is openness and transparency. That's all coming together. You have to understand that systems need to be put in place for things to be done efficiently. You can't just go willy-nilly and just throw things together. So now we have a system. We have a daily stand-up. We have persons who are responsible for taking the highlights, for publishing them, and so on and so forth. So you're going to start seeing those daily highlights every day now. We are also looking at coming up with a cloud provider partnership, an advisory partnership, if you will, and getting some credits there. So that's being worked on. We are also working on how can we get galleries to come on board the protocol, because galleries bring with them artists, and galleries have a problem and they have a need. So that's what we'll bring on. And then finally, we're working on position descriptions for all the various positions of the DAO. As I have hinted previously, ultimately, there's a lot of positions in the DAO, and those would be sort of, community elected positions. And those positions need a description, they need a stipend, what's it going to be, they need a budget, all those kinds of things. So we are working through all those details right now. It's almost like, and in fact, it's not almost like, it is like creating a new company, right? And when you create a new company and you plan out for the future, there's a lot of detail that has to be put into place, including financial planning, strategic planning, tactical planning, all of those kind of things. So we're working on all of those things as we say. Actually, I just realized that this is, in fact, the strategic council. It just the team is correct, the council name is wrong, so we'll have to update that. I hope someone updates that at some point before we publish this deck. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is marketing council. And so right here, right now, I would like to welcome Riva, our marketing council lead, to come up and give us her update, because I can tell you she's been going gangbusters. There's so much activity going on. I think you're I thought I didn't get much sleep, but I see you also working at all the odd hours, etc. Riva, so great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Actually, it seemed just like yesterday I was in the team meet. But then again, time is so diluted, because sometimes I feel like we've been working on Vitruveo for like months, when in fact it's just been like I've just been on the team for about 2.5, 3 weeks. So it's just crazy the amount of work that has gotten in that time. Yeah.
Well, let's go at it. Let's tell people what you've been up to.
Cool. I think let's start. I'll bring my presentation up because yeah. So one of the things that obviously the community is aware of and is familiar with is the way that we have branded ourselves and how our branding is looking. Now, there is reasons for all of this, and I really wanted to share a little bit about it. Why we actually decided to use these colors, why we decided to do the gradient. Because when you traditionally look at the gradient thing, it's a very popular theme when it comes to blockchain and crypto projects. So when we do that, it immediately says, okay, this is a crypto project. We specifically used the colors blue a lot because it's trustworthy. Nick, you were talking about, building trust. I think this is one of the ways that we are doing. Branding is a great way to tell people, like, we are super professional. We have thought about all these things from A to Z, and we really want to earn your trust because we're your friend. And that's why we have the little bit of a purple and a pink tinge over there. I just want to also share our color system, because I see that a lot of community members have taken the initiative and have decided to create content, go all out and create gear and phone covers, hoodies, as well as a lot of content for their own YouTube shows. But it also is important, I think, at this stage for us to, I'm a marketing person, so this is how I will speak, but to be on brand. So we don't want to go like wild west in a lot of things, because when we see the larger audience, everyone else around the world looking at us and looking at the content, it immediately needs to click as Vitruveo. So that is one of the things I really want to emphasize. We are working on our branding guide right now, so it's about 80% complete. But for all of you people out there, the creative types who want to do stuff around Vitruveo, you want to do your memes, you want to do your backgrounds, you want to change your backgrounds, your PFPs, create content, and then these are basically your hex codes: the pink that we use, the purple that we use, the teal that we use. So that might be easy for you guys if you want to, create content. And I also want to say that we want you to create loads of content, because the branding deck that we're building, it's all about content and co-creation. We don't just want to create content and want people to share it. We want you guys to create the content along with us. And that's why we're really going out and going to go strong with our Instagram and TikTok pages. We're going to hire a couple more people who will be helping us, who are experts in those fields. building the community in those channels as well. So there's a lot of like co-creating of content that's going on. You would have seen a lot of stuff that's very simple, very quick to understand. We try to have like short and punchy statements on our social media because that's kind of our tone of voice. We want to be out there as trustworthy people. We are your friends. We're built on trust. We use a lot of emojis. That's kind of like the language that a lot of people who are gamers, a lot of people in Web3 speak. But we're also aware that we are talking to a group of artists out there or creators out there who are not in the Web3 circle. So that way, education is like a huge part of what we do as well. So we want to make sure that the information gets across to them in a language that's not very technical. So in a language that's very relatable, we use those words whenever that we are building content. So we go to the back end of how we produce content, that different content pillars, the different tones of voice for audiences, the different words that we use. We have a word cloud that we pick, those words from. Everything that we, articles that we write and content that we push out there is SEO friendly, so that when people in a few weeks time, when people look for a creator friendly blockchain or a Web3 community that's great for artists, when they Google such terms, we automatically come up. I am a big fan of memes, so we are also building a lot of like meme. We want to encourage the community to do a lot of memes for us as well. I think very soon in our Discord, we're going to be launching that as well, right, Nick? I believe that that's what's going to be happening. So that's going to be super exciting for people to do stuff. That's I think this is one of our most retweeted posts as well, because it's simple, it's fun, and it just communicates the message very, very quickly. Let's go to Learn with Vitruveo, because that is what I'm super excited about. We launched this not so long ago, and we had our first episode last Wednesday, our second episode. So it's going to be happening every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. That I think it's 2 p.m. UTC. But anyway, Learn with Vitruveo is a program that is made for creators, specifically to empower creators, to get them to know a lot more about blockchain. And we want to simplify, it's like a 101, right? Want to simplify a lot of like techie topics and difficult to understand, hard to grasp topics, but want to explore. Like, for example, we did a poll not so long ago asking people, okay, what are the kind of topics that you want to learn when it comes to blockchain technology or when it comes to Web3? And we asked people, do you want to learn about metadata? Not many people voted for it, but in fact, the episode on metadata got us about, I think, close to about 700 people who actually came and listened to it and benefited from it, because we told people it's not just metadata for the sake of metadata, but it's all about discoverability. It's about more people getting to see your artwork. More people getting to see your artwork means they will share your artwork. It's about buying your artwork. And it all comes down to the right words that you use. What are the attributes that you attach to your artwork? That basically is just our first episode, how to make your art more discoverable, right? The power of metadata. And you can see that after each of these episodes, we make it a point to share the information that has gone on these Twitter spaces on our various platforms, whether it be Medium, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Instagram, because we just don't want only the listeners to benefit from it. Even if you have missed out on the stuff because you've been busy or the time is just not appropriate for you, you get to still learn about this content and join these discussions. We've got upcoming spaces. The next one will be on the 27th of September, blockchain basics for creators. And then after that, we're going to be diving into smart contracts for artists, and then understanding the symphony between cryptocurrency and digital art, and what does it mean for creators and investors. So that's a whole line of stuff just coming for the next few weeks. And soon enough, Learn with Vitruveo program will also be available like visually on YouTube. We're going to be streaming it live on YouTube and on LinkedIn, because a lot of people out there have requested for this, and it's a great way to reach out for our audiences there. So this is a tiny example of a carousel. So if you go, and if you have not followed us on Instagram yet, please do so. It's Vitruveo_chain. You can see our resources there in forms of carousel. We ask a lot of questions on Instagram stories. Reminders for our YouTube lives are up there as Instagram stories as well, so people can set it up as a reminder. There is a countdown, so you don't miss out on stuff. So we really are big on using the individual features of the platforms to get the wider audience, not just the crypto crowd interested in the Vitruveo chain. So that's just part of our marketing strategy as well. So if you look at our Medium, I think if anybody is asking what is Vitruveo, one of the best places to go and learn about stuff is definitely our Medium. We just passed 100 followers today. And one of our most read posts is the first one, which is a new dawn for creators. I think you guys might have, looked at this. It just basically gives you an overview of why Vitruveo, why the team. And then one of my favorite posts there is a 6-minute read. And one of the things I really love about video is actually Medium is that you can actually listen to it. So you don't even have to read it. So you're on your car, it's like a podcast, right? It lists down all the creator problems first, and then it talks about how Vitruveo is going to solve it. So everything is listed here. And in fact, this piece of content is also shared as a Twitter feed. So you just can't run away anywhere from understanding Vitruveo. I want to say that we're trying to be everywhere. So yeah, that's basically what's been happening marketing front. And I just want to remind you about the next Learn with Vitruveo program session that's going to be on next Wednesday. Please do join us on Twitter. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Riva. I'm really excited to see all that progress. I have a couple of questions for you. In your mind, like we are catering to two very distinct groups of people, right? For the boosters, we are targeting folks who are interested in investing, and then obviously to the larger creator community and also the collector community. How do you intend to approach that problem, that dual sort of audience problem?
I don't see it as a problem. I really see it as an opportunity, because not many blockchains and not many protocols out there are actually utilizing the various platforms and social platforms and mediums that are available to us. So we really are going to look into where these people actually exist and then reverse engineer our marketing approach. I think it all comes down to understanding and solving the day-to-day problems of a person, rather than speaking from an organization's point of view and saying that, hey, we got this, we got that, we got this, but rather reverse engineer and think about what would a day-to-day problem of a particular person be, and look, we are going to solve this for you today. And a collector's problem is going to be very different from a creator's problem. So if you're just going to speak to people, it's like being on a family WhatsApp call or WhatsApp group and making sure that you understand what each person wants and answering them accordingly.
Yeah. We've had some very deep strategic discussions about how to get creators and collectors on here. And I just wanted to share for the community some of our thinking around it. So there's a large number of independent creators, and we'll get those. But there's also a large number of traditional artists who work through galleries. That's their vector into the space. And the cool thing about galleries is that they're perfectly positioned to not only have the artists, but they also have mailing lists, and they have events with art enthusiasts and collectors, etc. So as we are thinking through this strategically, what we've sort of decided our go-to market is that we will have these workshops, etc. you talked about, to get the indies, as we call them, but we're going to focus laser-like almost on the gallery segment, the worldwide gallery segment, and make that sort of our go-to market in order to get them on board, because when we get a gallery on board, what we are doing several things. One, we are solving their problem of getting sales for their artists. That's one thing. Two, we are introducing them to a new way of doing business, a new revenue stream, which they're always interested in. And three, we are helping them benefit from the network effect. The more galleries that are on Vitruveo, the more collectors come, and there's this cross-pollination that happens. So do you want to add anything more to that? Like, because I know we have some more strategic discussions around that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a multi-pronged approach, right? So what you've said is very true, and I think since I am sitting here from in Dubai in the Middle East, I'm super excited about what the next few months are going to unfold in terms of galleries, exhibitions, events, on-ground events, and we're going to be registered here. So because winter is it's super busy here in this part of the world, and it's kind of a nexus. It's a meeting point from different cultures from all around the world. We have this audience are going to be here from all around the world coming to this place, and that there's a huge opportunity to meet them face to face and get to show them what we are all about.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this, and I just want people to understand that there is the superficial, like the comments we make in Discord, etc. But then there's the real world and the deep sort of strategic decisions we have to make, which isn't just going to come from an off-the-cuff remark or something like that. We are doing the market research. We are talking to people. We are doing all that legwork in order to make sure that when we make a decision, it's not just we just kind of made this up. It's based upon facts and data. So Riva, I appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you so much. It's amazing. The brand is looking spectacular, and I really love the idea of a personalizable brand, because we are talking about the creator ecosystem. I have run lots of meme challenges, and the responses I get, like 300-400 people creating custom memes, etc. It's amazing, and that adds to the vibrancy of a brand. It makes it feel alive and youthful and exciting and engaging. And I love that you pulled that off. Obviously,
yeah, thank you for actually.
I also shout out to our partners in Intention there, who have also played a big role in that. So thank you for that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that, because I think we are going to do something that in my knowledge, no Web3 organization has ever done before. In fact, I wouldn't even think not many Web2 organizations have done this before, is we're going to give creators, we're going to give the community a set of assets for them to play around with. So these are going to be Vitruveo assets. They're going to be, little brand identity features that you can use to create content, whether it is putting them up in your presentations or using them to do a video intro or getting them out there as an artwork. But I'm super excited to see what the community is going to create and share with us.
Super. Well, thanks, Riva. I appreciate you being here today, and I'm going to continue with my presentation of the update. But thanks, and live long and prosper. Yeah. All right, let me see what I need to do to get my deck back on here. There we go. Thank you so much. All right, moving on past the Marketing Council, we are now onto the Creator Council. This is Fur and her work. And next week, she'll be on here along with our community lead and give us more insights. But Creator Council's been firing on all cylinders here. So the first thing is we want to make sure that we look at organizations that already have an inroad into onboarding artists from the traditional industry. So we are working on an alliance around that. So that's 4,000 or 5,000 artists that we could potentially get on board. The creator application for Booster has been posted. The idea there is in our community, we are going to solicit artists, because we don't know who the artists are yet in the community. We're going to find out who they are, but we also know a lot of other artists outside. So what Fur is going to do is sort of handpick the artists and choose them. So I don't think it'll be any problem with filling the 25 or 30 slots there are. In fact, if we put a general call, we would be inundated with entries. So we want to make sure that these are absolutely amazing artworks, and so it's going to be a curated set of artists. So next is we are also developing a campaign to onboard the entire Artpacks community. So that's already several hundred, like there's been 4 drops. So that's what, 250 or so artists that are already on there. So these are curated artists that are really already demonstrated their proficiency. We have been working on the detailed requirements for Vitruveo Studio. So now this is where we really get into product development. So the product is fairly complex. It's got metadata. It's got creator onboarding with KYC. It's got asset onboarding to IPFS. It's got asset digital cryptographic signatures. It's got metadata embedding in the digital asset, which no one else is doing so far. Just about everything we are doing there with Vitruveo Studio, no one else has done. 0 people have done that, and we are really excited to bring some of these innovations. We are also working on a welcome package for artists. So when they first come on board, we handhold them and sort of walk them through, because you have to understand that a lot of folks are not like you and I who are familiar with crypto. In fact, I saw a comment earlier here that if you don't know about blockchain, that you don't know anything, or to some effect. I would tell you that you're 1,000,000% wrong there. More people don't know anything about blockchain than do. So the need to have people educated about what blockchain is, what crypto is, and how all of that works is really, really important, because without that correct positioning, people believe what the media tells them. And the media only focuses on the hacks and the bad things. So we have to craft a different narrative. We have to tell a different story that is more positive, more welcoming, and makes the user experience really, really warm and welcoming. So we are focusing on that with our welcome package. We have the go-ahead now with a gallery in Sao Paulo. I also actually met with a Web3 organization and a gallery here in San Francisco. So we have a go-ahead there also for doing exhibitions and things like that. So there's actually several galleries around the world where we are now opening up conversations with, where we will go and do our promotion of the blockchain and get artists onboarded, etc. We are also already started our weekly educational spaces on X. That'll evolve into YouTube workshops. But for right now, all the artists are hanging out on Twitter quite a bit. And so we want to engage with them. So that's what's happening on the Creator Council. And like I said, next week, we're going to have Fer here, and we're going to show you some things. And also, I would like to actually bring a few artists on board here at next week's download and kind of chat with them a little bit. I like to see what they think about all of this, etc. So we'll talk about that. All right. Next is the Ecosystem Council. So we are doing a fair bit of research now on the DAO structure, the tooling, and the charter. We are working on how to onboard creators into our community, into our Discord and things like that. You'll also see improvements, continuing improvements on the Discord server with respect to the brand. And finally, what we want to do is, in the Creator Council, we talked about the welcome package. So that works hand in hand with the community. So there's a lot going on there. And I'll just re-emphasize what I said last week. Our Discord is going to be one of the most welcoming places for creators. We are focused on being very successful as a protocol. That success cannot come if our front door of our home, our living room, if you will, is cluttered and messy and not welcoming. We want to create a beautiful and welcoming place. And so the Discord moderation team has been advised to make that happen. And so that's what's going to happen. We want to be extremely welcoming to the audience we are targeting. That's plain and simple. If we are successful in that, success follows for everybody else from a monetary standpoint. It's very simple to understand. One leads to the other. And so it's really important that our Discord be a friendly and nice place. I'm going to continue to emphasize that every single time. All right. Next, financial update. There has been no new spending. So the spending from the last week is covering us. We've got all those budgeted, etc. So nothing new to report on that. Look, folks, like we have a small runway. I'm very well aware of that. I am orchestrating everything possible with this protocol and with going to the booster sale to ensure that we can have this new trajectory for us. So being very, very careful with capital and making sure that we really, really can be successful. It's that simple. All right. Next up, I want to talk about the Nexus NFT. So previously, you had heard about the concept of an OG NFT, which essentially was your source for everything. So now we are getting into the details of it. We're actually building some of these things out and thinking through it. So we have to get past working titles and get past 50,000 foot ideas and get down to implementation. So the NFT will be called the Nexus NFT. Nexus being a hub, and it will have 4 main functions. The first thing, starting at the top left, is it will have for each of you your Genesis allocation. So this means whatever you have purchased, that's your initial allocation. So it's going to reflect that on there. That Genesis allocation drives a lot of other things like your perks and your voting, etc. We'll come to that. Next, it has your vesting schedule on there. Now, that vesting component of the NFT is where the boosters will come in. So you can essentially apply your boosters to your Nexus NFT and increase the vesting. So if you have multiple wallets, you have the ability to essentially boost different Nexus NFTs and use up the boost component of that boosting NFT. And you're left then with an NFT that is art. So you still, that's the neat thing about boosters is that even after they are used, you've used it to boost your vesting, you still have a valuable art NFT left with you. All right. Next thing is perks. So earlier we had a term called incentives. Now we've very specifically named that to perks. So a perk is essentially a pool of tokens that grows as rebasing occurs. So so it's basically 2 parts. There's a vault and there's a pool. So in the vault is the allocated amount of perk tokens, and every time there's a successful rebase, the protocol is going to look at what is vested and move those tokens from the vault into the pool, making them eligible for you to claim. So you would use your Nexus NFT to claim your perks, and those perks would then be reduced. So for example, if you claim a perk in a week's time, then you are no longer eligible for that amount of perks in the future, and the amount you claim, any new perks that come on are now distributed among the people who are still, still have not claimed theirs. So that's how it works. I'm going to do a whole session on just how that works, the algorithm, the details of it. You're going to find out all about that. It's still in sort of the architecture phase right now, but we'll come down to that. And finally, the Nexus NFT is what you do your voting with. Folks, I see all kinds of questions all the time in Discord. Let's just make an assumption here that we are going to think through these very carefully. We are not approaching this with a kindergartner's mind. We are approaching this with a very analytic mind. What that means is when we talk about voting, we're going to study the pros and cons, etc., of like what does it mean and how we're going to apply it. Just so you know, we plan on using quadratic voting. We plan on using delegated voting also. So what those 2 things mean is quadratic voting means is each subsequent vote requires a square of the number of tokens of that vote number. So a whale, someone with a large number of tokens, cannot unduly influence the vote. Delegated voting is that you can choose, if you're not a regular participant, etc., in the ecosystem, you can say, hey, I'm going to give 10% of my votes to person X and 50% to person Y and so on. And so you can delegate your voting. So those are the kinds of models we are thinking about. We are thinking about the tools also, and we are thinking quite deeply about when a vote is required and what quorum is required, and also what plurality is required for the vote. Those are all important things. Like, you can't require 100% quorum, for example, because not everyone's going to be present all the time. We know that from the real world, right? What is the number of voters who show up for even a presidential election? It's not 100%. So things like quorum and things like plurality, I have trouble with that word, plurality, are need to be part of our governance charter. So, and we'll be doing that. Okay, moving right along. I want to go into our cap table. Now, the cap table is mostly the same, but continues to be refined to the point where we have a final cap table that everyone can look at and approve. Now, the reason this is being refined is because we are finalizing the data of all the wallets, the sacrifice wallets, and those are the tokens that go into this first row called the Nexus row. So previously, this was at 15 million, and it's increased a little bit as we are correctly calculating the rebases and all that kind of stuff. It's not that there's a whole new bunch of wallets that were dumped or anything like that. We are correctly calculating things and making sure that we are going from estimates to actual facts. Because remember, we have to create a Genesis file here, so we need to get the accurate numbers. So you're going to see some movement in this top tier here between these two, the perks and the Nexus. A little bit of shifting there, but I don't expect it to change very, very drastically. So you can see here that that's approximately 55%. So it's going to stay 55%, the Nexus and perks. So that's available to you. Everything else is unchanged. The aggregate numbers are unchanged. The one change I did make is I put the boosters under the treasury, because we don't know exactly how many boosters we will sell. And now with the super boosters, we also don't know how many of those. So instead of having these boundaries which are hard to manage, I put that under the treasury control, and we'll be able to have the sales of that orchestrated and properly done through a pool, which gives us a little bit of flexibility. If we want to raise more, for example, we have that flexibility. So that's all there is. As part of the DAO governance charter, you will see how we have tiered levels of multi-sigs, etc., to control the distribution of these tokens, etc. And again, that's a very detailed presentation. It will be coming up very soon in the next 10 days. All right. Now I want to go into something that I feel is really, really important for me to communicate to the community, because I have seen a lot of questions, and we do these presentations, but not everybody is available, right, for these presentations, and not everyone has the time to sit through a 2-hour, video, or even read a detailed document. So what I have done is come up with a very simple way for everyone to understand what's going on here and how we will get to mainnet. So I've broken up our launch into 3 phases: ready, set, go. So it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So we are currently at phase 1. That's what I'm going to talk about today. But I want to share with you the highlights also of phase 2 and phase 3. Now, be prepared for a ton of detail. Here we go. Phase 1, very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, and it may not be obvious to you from just looking at the outside, but believe me, it is a very complex endeavor, and we are looking at this as a September and October kind of time frame. We are unable to give specific dates on any of these things because there's a lot of external dependencies, government dependencies, third-party dependencies, technical dependencies, etc. So, but this is the plan, and as you can go left to right and see the main items that we are talking about here. So the main items are the testnet, the DAO, mainnet RC1, marketing. Marketing is extremely important for our success. The booster sale, and then Nexus. So let me go through each one, and to the point where you get bored, but I'm sorry I have to do this because I want to make sure you're informed. So here's where we are. So with testnet, you can see here there's 3 types of icons here. There's a green check mark for something that's already done. There's a play icon for something that is in progress. And there's a pause icon for something that's yet to be started. So you can see there's a lot of play icons here. That means we're working on a lot of stuff at the same time, but we also have a bunch of things done. So with testnet, so we have 0.5.1 released. The rebasing feature is in there. The source repo is out there. The next thing we're going to do is publish a Genesis repo. The idea behind the Genesis repo is you're going to see the raw files for the wallets that are going to get the Nexus tokens, right? So that's basically pointing back to everyone who sacrificed. No matter how you sacrificed, you'll be eligible for tokens. So that raw data would be in the Genesis repo. It would also have all the validators. It would have all the backers. And it would have all the DEX. So that was previously UXI. So all of those wallets, etc. So we want to make sure that the entire community can look at that raw data in its entirety, do your research, do everything you want to around that, and check it out before it becomes part of the protocol. So that's what the Genesis repo is. So I'm looking at the near final data here. We are trying to decide what's the best way to present it to folks. It's going to be on GitHub as a repo, so people can submit changes. We call them pull requests as needed initially, but we'll also make them available in easier to digest formats for you. But we don't have the bandwidth to build an app right now. So you're going to see the raw data. You're going to see the raw cumulative data. So you can go and look at every wallet and the tokens owed for it, and you can make your own decisions on what those wallets are, who they belong to, etc. We have sanitized and will continue to sanitize to make sure that any wallets that are ineligible for tokens are not in there. So you're going to see that. Now, the next one is auto perks. So I mentioned to you earlier how in the protocol, we are going to essentially make the perks automatically go from the vault into the pool. So that's the auto perk feature. And that's going to be implemented also. We'll update. You'll see the testnet change from probably 0.5.1 to 0.5.2 as we add some of these minor features on there. You'll also see the Explorer being visible with the Vitruveo branding. And very soon, and this will be a major testnet upgrade, so it'll probably change the versioning from 0.5 to 0.6, is we will deploy the asset base and creator base contracts. Now, when it comes to smart contracts, there are contracts that any developer can deploy anytime, but there's also something called pre-compiled contracts. So these are contracts that are built into the protocol. They ship, like when you turn the protocol on, they ship with them. They are active with them. And the cool thing about these pre-compiled contracts is that they don't use Solidity like you would with a contract that's deployed by a developer. These contracts are actually written in Go because the protocol is written in the Go language. So asset base and creator base are two primary contracts are actually going to be protocol based. Why would you want to have pre-compiled contracts? Well, you want to have pre-compiled contracts because with pre-compiled contracts, you can do interesting things around both computation, because you have the whole power of the Go language available to you. And also you can do interesting things with gas. We do intend for the payment structure around registering assets to be creator friendly. And so we will be making sure that the gas is minimal on that. And we can do that by making these pre-compiled contracts. All right, moving on to the next column, the DAO. The councils are all ready. You've seen people represent here. You've seen people talk about, etc. Our draft letter of organization around the DAO is ready. I'm going back and forth on a few edits with our in-house general counsel around that. As soon as those edits are done, you will see that shared in Discord, so you can take a look at it. We are also working on, as I alluded to earlier, the operating agreement between the DAO entity that's going to be created and the actual DAO. And really, that operating agreement emphasizes what is the role of the DAO. What specifically is the DAO controlling and what specifically is the role of the entity and what is it doing. So the devil is in the detail. If you're talking legalese here. The next is the governance charter, which is the basic rules under which the DAO operates. Now, earlier I had thought about waiting a bit and getting this done in a more detailed fashion, but General Counsel advised us that we could make this part of our sort of when we create the entity, have a basic charter be part of that. So we are creating a basic charter, and we are focusing mostly on financial controls. That's the bulk of what the control is about. So the second degree of control is the protocol controls. What changes are made to the protocol, etc. So those are some of the areas you can expect to see explored in the charter. And once all those are done, put together as a package, we're going to have a community vote. So you will have the opportunity to vote on the operating agreement, the governance charter, and all of those things. We'll have sort of the budget, all of those things. So we'll put it to one community vote, and based upon that vote, if that vote passes, which I hope it will, because otherwise we are screwed, we will go incorporate in the UAE, in Dubai. That's the last step of the DAO. That process, I'm assuming, maybe there are some changes we need to make based on community feedback. We'll do those changes, but assuming that we're going to go forward with this plan. And so the legal steps are already underway for us to be incorporated in Dubai. Okay, next comes mainnet RC1. What are all the things that are going to have to happen for that? Well, we've got DevOps already in progress. This means setting up the validator nodes, etc. All of that is in progress. Mainnet RC1 will launch with the Poet application. We want to make sure that we can start onboarding creators and give them tokens and things like that. We want to have community tokens for your participation, etc. So Poet is proof of engagement token. It's an application that's been built and is ready to go. So that will be part of mainnet RC1. We are soliciting the artworks from our artists. Actually, step back. We are working on the curation of artists first, and then they'll be creating the artworks. And if you recollect from my prior presentation, these will be augmented reality enabled. So we have the requirements on that already done. And last but not the least, we will create the booster contract, on-chain contract for which are NFTs, right? The boosters are NFTs. So the contract associated that will be deployed on mainnet RC1. Now, what happens as part of all this? How do we actually make the booster sales work? Well, we have to have a marketing campaign around that, but it's not only about boosters, it's about the overall Vitruveo success. So first of all, we're going to define a campaign for boosters. So we're going to have a very specific campaign details, and Riva will come on another download and share that campaign detail with you. We are currently working on the website. We plan on having 2 iterations for the website. One quick one right now. We just want to get enough out there so it's available, but we are working on a more in-depth website also. Next, we'll have a white paper. This is for the crypto community at large, the investor community also, who are interested in details about how Vitruveo protocol works. We will have an investor deck that has your typical investor 10 to 12 slides, your problem, solution, go to market, your competition, your user funds, etc. We will have a community deck, which is more targeted towards audiences such as creators, galleries, and so on and so forth. And of course, we'll be doing a lot of market research around that. The next important part of phase 1 is our booster sale. Now, there's a lot of preconditions to booster sale. We need to have the DAO in place. We need to have RC1 launched, etc. And this is why you're seeing that left to right progression. This is happening, in a graduated way. But that doesn't mean that we are waiting for one element to be done before we work on the others. There's some things that can be worked on in parallel, and we are doing that. The booster sales components are the program terms. Those are now finalized, and I will actually review them again for 5 minutes as part of this presentation. Legal review, done. Cap table, I presented to you the near final version of it. It's not yet final, but I will present the final one. It's been worked on. The marketing plan for that, the campaign has been worked on. and there'll be a DApp and a website associated with that also. So all of that is coming together nicely and will culminate in the booster sale. And finally, the Nexus token. So as you can see, there's a gap between the time where we've launched testnet to the point where you actually are holding in your wallet on our mainnet a Nexus token with your benefits. And those benefits are, what are your tokens, what's your vesting, what's your perks, and what's your voting rights, etc. That's going to take a little bit of time to develop, so that comes there. So we have to finalize the data, which I talked about here. That same data is going into the Genesis repo. So that's what that data refers to. We're working on the architectural details of how that NFT will work. It's not just any NFT, right? It is a utilitarian NFT. There's a lot of functionality for it. We have to design that. We are finalizing the allocations. As I mentioned, there's got to be a DApp built for it. There's got to be a dashboard built for it. So all of those things have to come together. So that, folks, is the big picture for phase 1, ready to go. And this goes through September and October. And essentially, this is make or break for us. Like, this has to be successful. It absolutely has to be successful. So you can see that a lot of thought and planning has gone into this to make sure that when we get to that booster sale, we have everything in order. And really, I plan on having more than what we have presented here in terms of projects and partners, etc., announcements lined up, so that people can have a high degree of confidence in Vitruveo and want to buy those boosters freely. Okay, I know the community I'm speaking to right now is, and I know what is the paramount question in your mind. So let me answer that question right here, right now. You want to know, show me the coins, right? So that's from Jerry McGuire. Show me the money. Well, there's 2 places where you can know what coins you have. Right away, in the next few days, there's going to be a new Genesis repo. And like I said, it's going to have the raw tabular data for a wallet and the tokens it's going to have. You don't have to go looking through a DApp or anything like that. You can just download the data and look at it yourself. That's it. And then when we get to the Nexus app, you'll have a dashboard where you can look at your NFT, and you can look at your NFT on the blockchain also. You can go to the Explorer and look at it in a raw form, but we'll create a nice dashboard for you so you can see in one page, you'll see how many incentives have you earned, how much rebasing is going on, what have you claimed, what have you not, etc. So it's going to be a very elaborate dashboard for you to look at it. So right now, you will be in the next few days, look at the raw data around coins, and then dashboard. And I just want to emphasize again, this is not just about Vitru. This is also Vitro, which is the DEX, the UXI one. So we're going to put that data also in there, and you can see that. Now, I want to touch upon phase 2 and phase 3 also. So let me just do that. I don't have the details on that yet. We are working through them. All of this stuff takes time, folks. We have to get through planning, we have to do the research, etc. But I do have the high-level items that we are looking at here. So this is phase 2 set. So that's release candidate 2. So there we are going to be looking at exchanges and bridge. So we'll start with centralized exchanges first. So that's been worked on. We are working on getting listings. This is where we will also start activating additional validators. Now, one of the things I want to do this week is we have a validator rep. So we have Baron on the multi-sig. We also have within the strategy council a validators team. This coming week, I'd like to activate that team. So I would like to talk about having a formal meeting, getting more folks on there, and formalizing, at least maybe not formalizing the word, but sort of collaborating publicly on the planning around the final perks and the final VIP validator improvement program, incentive program. Sorry, I misspoke there. So we'll activate that, and as part of that, we'll also assign a plan. We'll also assign a schedule for how validators come online, like what are the requirements, which ones come online first, which ones come online later. I don't want to be the person making that decision. Neither should any centralized sort of group of people. It should be the validator community itself that steps up and says, here's our plan. This is how we're going to do it. Because at the end of the day, this is your blockchain, right? It has to be successful for you to get a return on your investment. So I expect that people will step up and help with this planning. The next thing is, I have a collective of approximately 4,000 artists. We want to get them on board here. So we will create a program that onboards those artists on here as the early creators, so that as we get to mainnet, we are already humming. We are already buzzing. We've got activity already happening on here, even before we hit mainnet without the release candidate sort of moniker. So we'll be doing that, and we'll be working on different dapps and inviting different projects to come on here. As I said, when we get to sort of the prime mainnet, we don't want to wait until then to onboard projects and dapps. We want them to be planning and be ready and working when we get to that point. So those conversations have already started, by the way. We are not waiting. And last but not the least is release candidate 3. That's when we get into DEX. So DEX is where we have the Vitruveo token. Then we have more dapps and projects. That's going to be an ongoing thing. You're going to see that again and again. And this is when we get really, really serious about creators. And you will see at scale marketing, events, things like that to onboard creators by the thousands onto this protocol. And then we finally get to our mainnet. But as I said, in my mind, look at the evolution of this mainnet across release candidates as an already there mainnet. I don't expect there to be any changes in the protocol. So these are just monikers for us to feel comfortable that the code is good and scales well, etc. I don't expect there to be anything more than a few tweaks at the most. But starting with RC1, it's really us progressing on the trajectory of a mainnet and getting live projects on there and getting live things on there. It's once we hit mainnet RC1, which is basically here, right? We're talking about an active blockchain where all we are doing is focusing on its stability and its scalability and its security. So we're going to eyeball it. And that's what the RC1, the release candidate 1, 2, 3 are about. They are not about wholesale changes to the code. We are done with those when we hit that milestone. All it is polishing, tweaking, and making sure everything is working correctly. So that's basically what we are working on through here. So yeah, so that's the launch plan here. And each week, I will add more color to this. So, you've seen the detail that's here. You're going to see that same level of detail on phase 2 and phase 3. Also, we are not going to leave any stone unturned. We are thinking through all aspects of this. Every aspect is being covered. Okay, now I want to quickly, as I said earlier, review for 5 minutes the booster sales. Just as a reminder for people, I also have one little new addition that I wanted to share with you. All right, so boosters will be available on mainnet RC1. You've seen the plan for it now, so you know what's going to happen. There's going to be 2 booster types, boosters and super boosters. The intent of boosters is to accelerate token vesting. That's the primary intent. But if you want to get tokens at a decent price of $1.50, they're also great for that. The intent of super boosters is for folks to acquire tokens at a great price and hold on to them. It's very, very good value. Each booster will also feature a random amazing artwork by a global artist. They will be augmented reality enabled. These artists are being curated right now, and the artworks, I guarantee you, will be knock your socks off type artworks. I have seen the artworks that are coming in through art packs, and they are just mind-blowing, and these are going to be equally mind-blowing. People will want to have that booster just for the artwork. They might not even care about the tokens or the boosts. I think some people will want that. When the booster is used to accelerate vesting against, the Nexus token I showed you, the booster can be used to accelerate, and then that utility is done, and it becomes an art NFT which you can trade or whatever. Nothing's changed here. Booster price remains the same, $150. For tokens are $1.50. You get 100 tokens, and it gives you a boost of 0.10%. You can stack a maximum of 25 boosters to get 2.5% aggregate vesting. Beyond 25 boosters, you get the artwork and you get the tokens. So you're welcome to buy those. You can hold them for the future, because once the Vitru Hub is launched, you can sell those. And the vesting acceleration is good for 18 months. So you can hold on to them. Super boosters, great price, from $1.45 down to $1. The price range is $25,000 to $250,000. And if you happen to be an existing token holder, it will boost your vesting from 4.0% to 4.9%, depending on which level you buy at. Super boosters are not stackable with anything. You cannot, like, if you have a super booster on your wallet, you cannot apply any booster to it. You cannot apply another super booster to it. Now, as we are progressing on the DEX strategic work around the Vitro token, I wanted to say that in that cap table, we are going to allocate Vitro tokens also for super boosters. So if you buy into a super booster, you get a 2-for-1. You get the Vitru token, and you're also going to get Vitro tokens, which are the DEX token. The work for the calculation on that is in progress. I expect to have that done by next week, and we'll share that also. But the super boosters are going to be a very, very good deal for folks who look at the long-term success of this protocol based upon our vision, our planning, our execution. As you can see, everything is top-notch at this point, and we continue to not only keep it that way, but accelerate that. We continue to improve, and we will do that. The conditions for preconditions for booster sale, these are listed on here, but you already know them because we went through the launch plan. So none of this should be any surprise here. We've got DAO stuff to do. We've got mainnet RC1 to do. We've got the DApp to build, the artworks to build, etc. So this is a linear list of what you saw as a horizontal timeline-based task list earlier. So no new surprises there. And now we get to community questions. Okay, so these are curated questions from the community. I'll tackle these, and then we'll see if there's any more questions, and I'll tackle them live. So the first question we have is, are boosters designed to raise funds for liquidity and working capital, as mentioned during last week's download? Absolutely, yes. That's the whole point of the boosters. We need to have capital in order to be able to pay for all the work that has to be done in order to move this blockchain forward. And we also need to be able to pay for liquidity. And we don't have that capital right now. And so boosters will help us get that. What is the current status of the multi-sig wallet integration and the disclosure of invoices and receipts on Discord? Yeah, so we have a community-based multi-sig right now. This is the temporary multi-sig that is there for the remaining capital, which is approximately 200K. The spending levels there are mostly all about salaries. There's really not a whole bunch of invoices and receipts. There's really three categories. There's the people on the team. There is external resources, so contractors basically, and then there's fixed costs around cloud, etc. In terms of whether disclosure of invoices, receipts, etc., that's going to be part of the DAO plan, the governance plan. As I mentioned, it's primarily going to focus on finance. So there, as part of the multi-sig requirements, as part of the treasury requirements, we will have the disclosure requirements. But for this short window of time, September, October, and the runway we have, the disclosure is given to the community multi-sig holders, and that's all that's going to be there. Do super booster buyers receive the same advantages as OGs, booster buyers, and creatives, particularly in relation to the incentive pool? So yes, there is an incentive pool for super boosters also. That number is not yet finalized, but it's at around 1 million tokens right now. Is the team considering the introduction of an ambassador program to deepen members' understanding of Vitruveo's vision and enable them to promote it among local artists and institutions? Absolutely. We have a community team that's working on this actively as we speak. So that is being developed, and you will hear about it soon. Yeah, these just assume that everything that has to be done in order to promote this at large to creators within our community, within other communities, etc. We have to think through those, and we are thinking through those, and we will have those programs. So the answer is yes. What are the primary indicators of success for the protocol? Are factors like the number of onboarded projects, trading volume, price, number of creators and holders critical? Will these metrics be made available through a dashboard? Well, I'll answer B first. It's a protocol, it's a blockchain, so everything is available publicly. And to the extent that we decide as a DAO that we are going to have certain metrics that we are going to measure and publish regularly, of course, we will have a dashboard for that. But that's not a decision I need to make right now. That's a decision the DAO can make later and decide how to pay for it and build it and launch that dashboard. No problems there. In terms of what is the success for the protocol, I think there's multiple success factors that are pointed out here. But really, you need to also look at it as short-term and long-term success indicators, right? Those are very different. So for a protocol, if you're looking at it from the lens of a crypto investors, price is it, right? That's your lens, and you're going to look at that. But I look at it as price as being the result of all our other activities. If we are successful there, the price follows. So you have to go a little deeper and look at what is the activity on the protocol, what are the projects, but not the number of projects. The number of projects is really unimportant. It's the quality of the projects that's important. I would much rather have one massive, well-known consumer brand, for example, that is leveraging the licensing model we have with artists to create personalized goods, than have 10 tiny projects, right? So the quality and size of the projects that we onboard matter. They are significant. So I think for me, it comes down to this: are we able to execute successfully on our vision of this becoming the creator's blockchain? So in the short term, this means we need to start onboarding as many creators as possible and having them add their assets to the asset consignment registry. It also means we need partners who will create the marketplaces that conform to our model so that they can be purchase activity, they can be commercial activity, meaning people buying artworks, right? If it could also be people licensing artworks. If that's not happening, then that means we are not successful. So we need to watch those, and our marketing needs to focus on those two things. I feel like any reasonable, seasoned investor looks at the performance of a protocol. What is the activity? What are the types of people building on it? What are the projects on it, to determine what the price point, if they are willing to pay for something like this, is. If you just have a protocol that is based on bots and market makers, etc., all of that doesn't matter. But we don't have that protocol. We have a protocol that is authentic, that is trustworthy, and that has a huge appeal by way of its innovation for the creators out there. So if we are successful in getting creators and creator-related projects on here, everything else, the volume, the price, etc., follows. So as a lead, I'm focused on getting the high-quality projects and lots of creators on here. And I obviously care about the price, but I know that the price follows from the activity and is not driven, it's not in a vacuum. Is it possible to consolidate wallets before purchasing boosters? If so, do the corresponding NFTs need to be moved to the same wallet where all the coins were combined? Look, folks, I've had this question come up repeatedly and been trying to figure out a good way to address it. The wallets that we have are anonymous. All right, we have no way to really tell who's who. What we can do is look at it this post Nexus. What capabilities are we going to provide on the Nexus NFT to merge or to transfer. So in the launch plan, you saw that we are working on the Nexus architecture. This aspect is a significant part of that. So the answer to can you consolidate wallets before? The answer is no. But can you consolidate after? The answer is most likely yes. How does that impact your purchasing boosters? Well, remember, the Nexus NFT and your booster NFTs are two entirely separate things. You apply the booster on a Nexus, right? So you could, in theory, know that you're going to combine wallets later, because we are going to, I'm going to say 90% plus at this point, confidence. We are going to allow that feature. So you can purchase your boosters knowing full well that you'll be able to apply it to a combined booster. So we have to think through all the pros and cons and the gotchas of that. This is why I'm not saying it's 100% done deal. It looks like we'll allow the merging of the values of an NFT. So as we get closer to finalizing the architecture of the Nexus, I'll be able to give you a more certain answer on that. Is there a specified minimum amount from booster sales needed to activate the mainnet? So it's actually backwards. Mainnet gets activated before we have any booster sales. I'm committed to never, ever again do anything prior to having a mainnet. So your booster sales are going to be tokens on mainnet itself. So mainnet will be active for boosters. So if you're asking in that question, what is the sales needed in order for us to list on exchanges and DEX, etc., that's a different question. And yeah, so we are working through the final budgets on that. But previously in the strategic plan, I had presented a number of around 3 million, which is a target we need to get to in order to be able to sustain operating capital and liquidity. But boosters will happen on mainnet RC1, period. Who are the target audience for the super boosters? What marketing strategies are being implemented for that audience? Is there direct marketing to select affluent segments? So the target audience for the super boosters are generally crypto investors who would qualify as either angel investors or also just, in a larger, in the Web3 speak, whales. We also would target small institutional investors, the ones that are typically investing in seed round funds or early Series A capital rounds. So what marketing strategies are being implemented? Well, you saw in the plan that there's a whole segment there devoted to just coming up with that plan and getting into the details of that. So it's not ready yet. When it's ready, we'll present it to you. Is that direct marketing? Probably there's going to be a direct marketing component to it. But yeah, all those details will be presented once we have that plan finalized, but it's a little early for that. And I think that's it. Yep. So those are all the questions that the community had. I'd now like to ask my esteemed hosts to come back on here and give their feedback, ask their questions. We can stop the screen share probably, and then we can dive into community questions. But I shared a lot of information here today. I would love to get your input and your reaction.
Well, I'll start off by saying, Nick, that these presentations are I guess it's all in that brain of yours, and you put it down on a presentation, and it seriously, you got there's so much detail. I mean, it's tough for a lot of these questions. A lot of people are like, oh, I like this, and the questions come later, I guess, but your presentations are, you can probably do a class on your presentation value. So
thank you.
There's quite a few things that I like. Actually, there's two or three things that I actually was looking at, and I was like, oh, I like this. But one thing that the chart that you had up, the phase one, when
yeah, let's bring that up. Let me so we can refer to things as we are talking about it.
I like the there we go. I like the way that this is structured. You see this a lot on websites and everything like that, the roadmaps and stuff. But I like the way that this is structured, because to me now, for the longest time, for a month or two or whatever, we've had this discussion of things that were going to be happening, what we're going to be doing. But this to me is extremely valuable because you have actual points in here as to what is going to be happening, different phases and stuff like that. And it gives people things to look at and say, okay, this is what we're working on here. This is what has been accomplished and what's going forward and everything like that. So I enjoyed this part, and I know that the phase 2 and 3, they're empty, but the higher levels on those are very interesting too, because it kind of sees what it presents to us where we're at and where we're going, and it's something quantitative that you actually can see. It's not so much in the discussion phase anymore. It's more into the reality. This is where we're at, and this is what we're working on. So I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, Nick. You're always very thorough. So we appreciate how in depth you go, and it really doesn't leave too many questions because you are so thorough.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was going to say, to that point. For those that always want to know, when are we doing this, or when, and Nick has obviously said he doesn't want to put a date on something until he knows, which I completely, I agree with and totally respect. But I love how this is very succinct. It says, okay, this is done. This is what's next. And it's not linear because there's different aspects, right? There's different teams, et cetera, that are working on different things at the same time. So different things will get done at different times. I think this is magnificent personally. I think this, like NR just said, I think this leaves very little to question. I mean, there's a little, but this is very good. I like it. I'm a visual guy. I got to see, and I think this is great.
Yeah. And it's almost like any questions are because we're not quite there yet. So yeah, it's not that you missed it or didn't put it in the presentation. It's just we're not quite there yet. So we'll get there. So yeah, you're always very thorough. So it's definitely appreciated, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely not what we've been accustomed to in the past. Let's put it there.
Oh my gosh,
No, not at all.
to say the least.
Yeah. It's like night and day, man. It's like night and day.
And there's no drama either.
I do have to critique you on something, Nick.
Please.
I think that I think you misspoke, and earlier you said something about knocking socks off or something like that. And I was like, what? That's
somebody
enough.
said
I
that
have
in
heard
the comments.
enough.
Yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah, that's a source.
I'm allowed an occasional exaggeration. I'm allowed that once in a while.
Well, it's not necessarily you. It's more along the lines of who used to use it before all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't think
Well,
it has.
I will not
it
use
as a
that phrase
promo
again.
tool, so.
Yeah. I got to get it out of my vocabulary too. So I've made the
It was
mistakes.
figures.
I've actually said it on a live few times. I'm like, oh, this is going to knock your socks off. I'm like, oh no.
But it's a generally accepted term, so it's
I
not
know.
like So
It's not like they own it or anything, but who cares? Krypton, you have anything to say? And Fowler, you got?
Yeah. Oh, of course. I like to go last. You know that. I'm just kidding.
Does Kryptonian have something to say?
I know. Hold on a second.
He has a
Krypton.
quiz. He's already put his quiz
Right.
together for everyone.
Nick does presentations like Kryptonian, man, but we're on a live sitting there
I
listening
love you,
to
brother.
him, and Kryptonian's like giving us all this information, and
Well, I'm
like,
taking
dude,
notes, man. I'm taking
Yeah.
notes. Guys.
take it all.
That's what you got me here for.
That's
right?
why he's in the room. You know
That's
it, brother.
right.
You covered a lot of things, Nick, and I appreciate that. And I was speaking to some of the guys backstage about you went through the 3 different phases, and you got phase 1 up there, right? And admittedly, there's a lot of things to get checked before we move on to phase 2. I'm working on a few projects myself, a blockchain in particular, and I haven't had anybody bring me anything what you just presented today. Okay, I put a lot of resources and assets into the blockchain that we're building. No one's ever presented a plan just as you've done. I'm always kind of trying to figure out where we're at. So I appreciate that, and I think everybody is watching this will appreciate it as well. You talked about the Genesis file. You went into the skip rebasing, and I understand you're throwing random transactions. And I'm talking about when you actually showed us the test net, right? And you talked about the faucet in a few days. So I guess regarding the Genesis file, when do you see that actually being available? Because that's kind of like the gotcha. Where's the Genesis file, right? When you don't got that, then they think they got you, right? So those that know how to build chains, right? So when do you suspect, or when would you like for this thing to be available for public view?
Yeah. So first of all, let me tell you that the Genesis file on this is going to be different from what you're expecting. I'm sharing here on the screen the Genesis file. What you would expect in a Genesis file, what you're thinking of right now, most technical people, is address and balance, how many tokens. But
Right.
guess what? You cannot do that. Why cannot you do that? Because the tokens are vested. You can't simultaneously grant the tokens at Genesis and have them vested. So how's this going to work? Well, the architecture of this, which we'll be presenting this in this coming week, is that each main category of grants that we are talking about, whether it's Nexus, partnerships, grants, etc., the categories I showed you on the cap table are actually going to have contracts, and these tokens are going to be actually deployed into those contracts, and the NFTs are going to come from those contracts, and the NFT will have think about it this way. Let's look at Nexus as an example. Let's say it's 20 million tokens, right? Coins. So there's a contract, and in the Genesis file, maybe this one is this. I think this is 20 million. Yeah. Maybe this is a contract address, and these tokens get directed into that. Now, what happens immediately, like within a few hours of mainnet RC1 going live, we will run a script. That script will act upon a file, the file from the GitHub repository that has all those token allocations for various people, and start issuing them NFTs with the vesting terms and the token claim that they can make from that contract. So our goal is that we have our two validators. Everyone can look at the GitHub repo with the raw files. Everyone can look at the deployed contract and what was allocated to people, verify that on-chain, be completely satisfied with it before a single external validator agrees to sign and become part of the blockchain. So you're literally going to have a mainnet RC1 with all these contracts and allocations deployed on there. You can look at it, examine it, because it's a blockchain, right? It's all there, the transaction data. And when you feel comfortable, this is why I'm also bringing on that validators team. Then the validators team will have a plan, and they'll say, okay, these 10 validators are going to go online first. So we will have that vetting process, review the two validators we have before saying, yep, this is mainnet, and we will sign and come on board. So that's the basic idea. Architecturally, it's a little complex, and it's hard to kind of distill that down into a couple of slides. So I'm just going with the raw data here, but that's what we're looking at.
No, and I appreciate you laying that out and explaining it. It's just, I'm not just going to dump a file, because you basically you explain it very well. Obviously, people are usually looking for who gets the coins, not what's the allocation, because the vesting, it makes sense. So hopefully this puts to rest, or whatever you want to say, why it's not just out there just yet, because it's more complex than just a standard chain coming out. So I appreciate that. And you did say in the coming weeks or week. So I will, hopefully you get this all ironed out in the next, 7 to 14 days, or whatever it takes. Looking forward to seeing that, especially how you guys get the architecture down on that. The next thing you talked about was the faucet, right? The faucet being out, and you said 2 days. We already know no one works on the weekend. So we're looking Monday, Tuesday next week, Wednesday, Thursday for faucet. So that we can actually test
they're
the
just working on it nonstop. And I hate to push people to the point where they are taken away from their families and all that. Sure. Like, a few hours difference here or there is not going to make a difference in anyone's lives, but it is going to make a difference in some developers' lives. So all I'm saying is that we are committed to continually doing this and getting through all of this here as expediently as possible. We're not talking about weeks here. We're talking about days. Like, so days, okay. During the course of this week, you're going to start seeing that. One question that, I had a great conversation. Thanks for organizing it with Bob. And he tossed up the idea of having the community validate sort of the Genesis details, etc., before we go to mainnet. And that's exactly the plan we've laid out here. So not only does the community gets to review the files, but you also get to vote on the DAO charter, including these Genesis files, etc., before we execute on mainnet. So the process is now exactly what people have been asking for. I and the people on the team listen. We listen a lot, and people said, don't trust. Like, I understand that I'm coming into a position where there is zero trust, and I'm not asking anyone to trust me blindly. And so what I'm doing, though, is listening to you and saying, okay, if that's what people need, they need transparency and all that, we are doing that. So there's going to be a repo with these raw files. And if you want to know why, honestly, I could do a spreadsheet dump right now, but it won't give you much context. And I want people to go through and make sure all the numbers add up correctly, etc. It's pointless for me to publish a half-assed poor quality data file which doesn't even add up correctly. You'll be like, what kind of morons are these? Like, they can't even add numbers. I don't want that charge. I want to make sure that we publish something, it is high quality, and also something that you can absorb and digest easily, because I don't want you to be a developer and publish some JSON file that only certain people can look at. I want to make it easy for you to look at. So that's it. So patience is the key word here. Patience. With patience comes quality. So if you want quality, you have to be a little patient. If you're fine with subpar BS, then we can just throw things at you, and it won't make anyone happy.
I think that's
and I appreciate that, Nick. You laid it out in the last question, or the last comment I'll make. I'm sure I'll make another one, but as of right now, when you said the word quality, right? And I love how, and when you were talking about projects, that the questions we're getting from a lot of the naysayers and those that just don't think that this is a great idea or even a great venture to even attempt, is they're like, where are all the projects? Where are all the projects that are going to jump on this chain? But I like you nailed it on the head, or you hit the nail on the head when you said quality over quantity. That reminds me of someone like Apple. I'm an iPhone guy, right? And I always get it into it. I'm an IT guy, so I support both. Obviously, I got my Droid users and I got my iPhone users. And I always hear from my Droid users that Android's already come out with this. They've already got this feature. They've had it for years, right? But it's buggy. It doesn't work. It doesn't work well. It's not widely used, and that's why I think I'm just using these companies as an example when it comes to quality control, and then obviously assurance in the product. I like how Apple, when they finally release something, it works. It's good. They may not have all the features, but they have the ones that people want, that people use, and obviously the market share speaks for itself, right? As far as where Apple sits in the world when it comes to like smart devices. So, but I like the fact that you're taking that approach, quality over quantity, because that's just giving me the reassurance that this isn't a flash in the pan. That you're not just trying to get in and get out. You're trying to get in and stay in and become a standard. So I appreciate that. I like where this is going. I like the business mind around this, and I saw a question here, in the comments, why build a team before you build mainnet, or why, or something. I think that was the question. It's like, it's obviously
comes from a person who has never run a business. I want to address one thing. I want to address one thing. You talked about naysayers, etc., right? So first of all, I don't care about them. I don't give them any attention. Go have talk all you want. I don't really care. But here's my point. We binge on shows on Netflix. All of us do, right? Do we ever binge on a show that we hate, or we find crappy or bad or poorly directed or poorly acted? No, we don't watch that show. So if you're a naysayer and you think this project is doomed, leave, go away. We're going to keep working on it, and we're going to make it successful. Revisit us in 6 months. Maybe something's changed and maybe you like it then. But until then, you're wasting your time, because I certainly don't care about your input. I only care about people who have constructive criticism, who are looking at the data and the facts in front of them, are making educated questions and educated comments. Yeah. That's it.
There it is.
And I love the fact, Nick, that you're a man of action. You're not just sitting here telling us what you're going to do. You're showing us. And again, I think that's why you have the respect of everyone up here on the panel, as well as the community.
Yep, absolutely, Nick. And this is the last one. And thanks for that, Nick. Regarding naysayers and those who just don't believe in the project, you're absolutely right. The Netflix is a great illustration of that, right? Come back in 6 months. Maybe you'll like the finale of season 3, right? But the Vitru Studio, you're talking about business requirements. Can you go into detail to the best of your ability? Obviously it's still being mapped out. Like, what are some of those things that you see? Give me 5 takeaways if you could.
5 takeaways from what? Sorry, I missed
from the Vitru Studio. You have the business. You want it to meet business requirement. I think that's what I put down here as you were going through your stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me do better than that. I want to show you. This is very raw.
It's a good question, Kryptonian.
This is extremely raw, but I'm gonna share anyway because why not?
Fill his head too much now.
I get it by watching you, Chris.
Now he's doing it to me. Oh, there you go, Nick.
Oh, I saw
that. Yeah. So I believe your question was specifically about the Vitru Studio product and what we are talking about there. This is extremely raw, not pretty and all that, but that's fine. So our core requirements are to onboard creators using verifiable credentials data model into blockchain creator base with KYC. So I alluded to the fact that I've been talking to one of my prior startup investors who happens to be a co-founder of one of the largest KYC companies in Web3. And so we are making a deal with them, and we're going to have a very good way to KYC all these artists. So the first is onboard creators. Then we want to enable creators to create and maintain a profile page. So a nice page that talks about them, their portfolio, their artworks, etc., and really give them a nice, drag and drop, easy to edit page for that. Next, we want to enable creators to create an asset definition. Asset definition is really adding an asset using the linked art core metadata fields into the blockchain asset base. So that's adding an asset into the core. We then want to enable creators to upload their assets for asset definition to IPFS directly. So through that Vitru Studio, the creator doesn't need to know all these terms, etc. They are seeing a simple Web2 UI like they're used to on every other app, but behind the scenes, this is what's happening. And then we need to have them be able to create licenses that conform to Creative Commons, like basically choose which Creative Commons licenses they want for each of the artworks. So that's essentially the goal of Vitru Studio. If you want to look at it in even more detail, basically what's going to happen is for the creator base, we will have the mobile number with a zero knowledge proof, ZK proof. I'll explain that in just a moment, as the fundamental KYC requirement. We are going to have tiered KYC. So level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Why? Because if you're going to list an asset that base price, reserve price is $100,000, guess what? No collector is going to click on that buy button unless they know who you are and the fact that you've been vetted. So you better have a KYC level 5 or something like that if someone's going to drop $100K on your. But if you have an artwork there for $10, right? Well, maybe no. We are not going to have anyone with no KYC. Mobile number is our base KYC. Now, with all this KYC, we don't want that information to be public, right? We obviously don't want people's mobile numbers in a blockchain. That would be a clear violation of lots of laws. So that's where we get into zero knowledge proofs. Zero knowledge proof is a computing technology where you can store a proof that you know something, but you don't have to reveal that something. When we get into the detail of this, I'll do a session and I'll explain that in more detail. But basically, it allows us to store the fact that they have been KYC'd and we know that mobile number verified without actually revealing it. We will capture everyone's email address in a very Web2 database-centric way because we want to be able to do a newsletter and things like that for creators about campaigns and things like that. Web3 gives no way to contact people. We don't like that. We want to give people the option to opt in and say that, yeah, I want to know what's going on. I want to know if there's an exhibition coming up and all of that kind of stuff. Then we get to asset base. So the fundamental requirement is that the assets are IPFS deployed. We are also going to generate multi-res files dynamically. So if you've used services like Cloudinary, etc., which are APIs for image handling, when you upload a certain high-res image, it automatically creates maybe 20 variants of it, different sizes, different resolutions, etc., for different form factors, for whether you're on a Retina device or you're on a low bandwidth web device, etc. So we'll do that. And finally, we will have the artists create a digital signature It's called a digest, actually. So that we'll have them sign that artwork, so that even if a single tiny byte of that, a bit changes, that signature becomes invalid. So you know if the artwork's been tampered with. We are also looking as a stretch goal to have visual, invisible watermarks using steganography. So if you were, when you were a child, you probably, I don't know, had these images where if you stared at them, a 3D image popped up or whatever, or hidden things in images. That's basically watermarking. So we want an asset that's there to be watermarked, so that if someone steals it, anyone can go to a Vitruveo app that we will provide, or where you look at the image with your camera and you will immediately see the watermarks present or not. If it's not present, it's a fake. If you see the watermark, it's an authentic image. So that's asset base. Is this what you were looking for, Kryptonian? I'm just
absolutely what I was looking for.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Okay. And I appreciate you sharing it. And I know this is raw, and I know this is, there's going to be some things, but this is exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, when I put on a slide that we are in talks and doing this detail, assume that there is a lot of detail around it. So
you're not presenting a napkin right now, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and Nick, I actually appreciate it because it's the longest I've seen Kryptonian go without speaking. So that was pretty awesome.
Because usually, go ahead, Nick. I'll let you finish.
Dude, I will knock you off this.
Then metadata, we get into core linked art fields. Now, I have talked about linked art quite a bit, but I haven't actually shared much details with you on that. I think I'm going to ask Fur if we should do like a little tiny presentation on metadata, because I think it's so important. It's core to our entire protocol and what we are considering trust. Mm-hmm. So linked art is a standard, so you don't see much here. There's actually a library also that we can implement, but it actually borrows from another standard that you might have heard of called Dublin Core. Dublin Core is the schema standard for pretty much every industry out there. And if you go Google it, you'll see that pick an industry, any industry, they've got Dublin Core schema. So linked art is a variant of that, and we are going to have the metadata associated with that. And finally, the fourth component is licenses. So only Creative Commons selected licenses, and you can have multiple licenses associated with your artwork. And what we are doing is providing a capability of sort of dynamic licensing. What I mean by that is in a typical NFT scenario, an artist today has to choose between if they have a one-of-one edition or a one-of-n, let's say one of 10 editions or something like that. And artists are always struggling with that because they're like, if I list it as one-of-one, the price has to be higher, right? Will I sell? Instead, what they do is the trend is to go list as editions with a much lower price in the hope that, 50 people buying it at, divide that one price by 50 is easier to get sales on, But that's not a choice artists should have to make. If you want only one edition of your artwork to exist in the world, you should allow that. So what we are allowing is the ability for the artist to define both licenses, a one-of-one price and a one-of-many editions price. And they can optionally say that the first one wins. So obviously, if it's one-of-one, someone buys it, done. The one-of-n is invalid. But if someone does buy the one-of-n, then the one-of-one is no longer applicable anymore. So we are putting those kind of interesting licensing business rules for the creator also into play. So
that is so awesome, by the way.
So we are essentially building upon this model is pretty simple and straightforward to understand. We have creators who are KYC'd, and we have assets that are trusted because they are signed, they have metadata, and they also have potentially watermarks if we can get to that goal. That's it. Like I'm trying to make this so in terms of new creators, we are you probably saw that from what Riva had presented. We are building this narrative of trust, which seems counterintuitive given our history. I know that. Okay, I'm acutely aware of that. But that's what we are going forward with. It's about trust. Yeah.
And to me, that shows courage. That means there's confidence. Confidence is, to me, is the best friend of knowledge. Knowing what you know and at least what's needed in the space you have the confidence you can bring that. So there's that courage, and no matter what's happened, we're moving forward. So I like that. That's the way you do it. All or nothing, right? Go big or go home.
Yeah, I hope I answered your question, but that was a detail
You have.
on the Vitruveo requirements.
Thank you.
Yep.
Fowler, you got anything? We got a bunch of questions here. I think Nick can roll through them real quick.
Yeah.
I think you want to keep these under 2 hours, right?
Yeah, we are almost at a 2 hour. Let's go. Let's take a few questions and
Well, I only had one. It was really about and if you said this, I'm sorry, I might not caught it, but it was a question about the decks. Are the people who sacrifice for the Oopsie swap, is there anything in place for that, or?
Yeah, that's part of the Genesis repo. It's one of the 4th components of the Genesis repo, which is the 3 the sacrifice, the general sacrifice, the validators, the backers, and the new Vitro, what was formerly Oopsie. So yeah,
Okay,
we'll have that.
I have several questions about Uxie. I'm just going to roll through them real quick. Is the DEX name?
I don't know that a DEX needs a name. It's a DEX on our protocol, so it's the it's the one run by the protocol. So it's the Vitruveo DEX. The token will be Vitro.
Uxie. Will there be an NFT for those who bought Uxie?
Yeah. So on the DEX, that's a standard token kind of model there. I think we can probably look at that and assign a similar kind of NFT concept as the Nexus. So I'm going to say tentatively yes, and we can start calling it Vitro from now onwards. That's what it is. So yeah.
This one I'm going to bring to. I'm skipping around to a few of them. There's a couple up of the top. Nick, can you check the booster slide in the presentation? Yep. Can Nick clarify the 2023-24 vesting section? Thanks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take this off the screen so that they can actually see that we know the question is.
Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned, the Treasury, the way the Treasury has any money to spend is through tokens in the future. So that's what the 2024, 25, 25, 26 comes. The first line there, the boosters /2023-24, is an aggregate number of tokens which will be sold to purchases of boosters, and then whatever is left in the Treasury. And that's our operating capital, basically.
All right. All right, on to the next question. Nick, is there much interest in the artist competition for the booster NFTs?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's curated, right? So we put a call for artists within the community, for if there are any artists in the community, so we could find them. But we have thousands of artists that we'll pick from and just choose the 25 or so that are going to be, whose work will be featured on the boosters.
Nice. Any video marketing for social media, Nick?
I think so. Yes. Like you saw what Reva's plans are. I mean, she's got everything like TikTok, Instagram, etc. And yeah, we are going to have videos.
Yeah, I think that Eris came in. I saw him in the chat after Reva was talking, so he may not have seen that. But I just wanted to bring it up to make sure that he knew.
Yeah. Next download, you're going to see some very interesting things around the use of creators for video. So I'm very excited to show you that.
That's awesome. And then Nick, any updates on light nodes?
So both in the validators and the backers channel, I'm as my time permits, I'm going in there and talking to people. So there are some concepts floating around there, and honestly, because I had so much, I wanted to get to testnet. That was my main priority, because there was no confidence until we could hit that milestone. So this coming week, I've devoted to finalizing validator and backer quotas, plans, all of that kind of stuff. So this coming week, it'll be finalized.
Now, Nick, this is a question that's not on here, but it came to me earlier today, asking there's a big discussion going on in the validators chat about gas fees, and it's something that the community is united on. Could you please raise this in the chat to Nick, see if he can jump into the validator chat and speak to us on the gas fees? basically.
Gas fees are negligible, so I don't even. I have to go look at the conversation. I haven't visited in a couple of days, so I'll do that.
I think that's what they're saying is that there's a lot of chatter going on in there. It seems like from what they're saying, the community is getting pretty united, and that Nick jumping in and speaking to the issues of the gas fees would.
Yeah, we have already moved that conversation past gas fees to a fee sharing model, and I had proposed sharing fees on the registration. But Fur pushed back a little on that, saying it's high friction for creators. Why don't we take a cut on the sales, which I think is reasonable and actually more beneficial, if you will, for validators. You're going to register an asset one time, but you're going to sell it maybe 20 times or whatever, and at a much higher price point. So I think that's where we'll end up is a rev share of sales. Makes perfect sense to me.
Nice.
I think that makes sense as well.
Well, you guys are the node guys. I don't have a node, so I don't.
Well, even from a business standpoint, take the node, owning a node out of it. I think from a business standpoint, like Nick said, you're going to generate more revenue that way. So
yeah, I'm all for it. I don't want whenever anything comes up about the nodes, I don't want to act like I'm not. I don't know much about them. I'm not in their chat, so I don't know what's going on. But when they send something to me, I want to make sure I bring it up. Let's see. Can we move our Nexus NFT to a new wallet? Then after that, everything will happen in the new wallet.
Once you have your Nexus NFT, you can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it to someone. You can transfer it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's yours.
Let's see. Nick, if the centralized exchange is in phase 2, are people able to buy and sell Vitru through the central exchange already by that time?
When we go live with an exchange, the first day we go live with an exchange, it means booster sales are over. You can no longer buy things at $1 to $1.50 range, right? So at that point, you can buy and sell Vitru. That would be the whole point of listing on a centralized exchange, right? Yeah. So if you want to get in at the lower price, you would do it as a booster. After that, it's exchange and DEX following that.
Okay. I'm looking at other things over here. Back to this. We've got that one. There's just got 3 more left. I've been since Seifu. Turned 78 years old. It's 70 years young. Can't get my tired old brain around all this new blockchain. Want to invest. Is there a PDF so that I can follow all what I need to do, please?
So right here, where I'm highlighting there, that's your investor deck. That's coming. Like literally this coming week, you will have that. So you'll be able to start making decisions around that. Everything is converging around the booster sale, folks. Like there's a lot of this information requirement that we have. We don't expect any investor to put a dime into this until we can demonstrate to them what it is that they're getting into. And it has to be the case. So we're making sure that we want to communicate all our plans, all our results, and all the activity. People should be able to verify it for themselves and see that, yep, this is good. I'll put my money, or no, this is not good. I don't want to put my money. So that's all coming down to that.
Where does the direct credit card non-custodial wallet implementation fall? This ability is huge for ease of use. Also, how will this be achieved? What does the credit card sale tie to? Email.
Yep. So our focus is on mainnet, on getting creators onboarded with their assets, but that doesn't mean we are gonna sort of sit idly by. The DApp you're talking about there is Vitru Hub. So Vitru Hub is our sort of bare bones protocol level marketplace. That's where you can you can discover all the artworks that are listed and hit buy on them. So in Vitru Hub, we will have the buy option where you can choose to do crypto, or you can go to a custodial wallet. But that comes right after this green box here. So we're working through this like step by step, but yeah. So in fact, my goal is that at least a couple of these projects are also full-fledged marketplaces. I want to get them on board from Ethereum to here. understanding that they have to change their backend because their whole, well, not their backend and front end, because the whole model in Ethereum is mint first and ours is mint last, So, but yeah, we will have credit card purchases. It's very important. And not only will we have credit card purchases, we will make it easy for developers because the protocol, us as a DAO, will provide the gateway service for them. So they don't need to go and try and get approved by Stripe or whoever else, etc. Because that's a huge challenge for crypto projects. So we will become the gateway and take on a portion of that risk.
Nice. We got a question from Twitter. Why is the Genesis token allocation before the DAO formation?
There isn't.
And then the last question I have up here: are we going to get our coins in RC1?
Your coins are available to you at this stage here, the dashboard stage, Nexus. This is the first point. I'm clicking on the screen up there. This is the first point here where your coins are available to you in your wallet. You can do whatever you want to. So we are here. You can verify what coins you're going to get. Here at the Nexus stage, you actually have an NFT. You have a rebasing going on. The rebasing tokens are never vested, so they're always yours. You can start claiming them as it's happening.
Okay. That's all the questions I got. I don't know. Did you guys want to bring that back up for something?
I've asked my questions.
All right. I don't have anything else unless you have something else, Nick. There's nothing starred in there. I think there's some.
I'll talk for 2 hours, Chris. I don't think anyone wants to hear me anymore.
But Nick, I'm telling you, every time I think I've seen it or heard it, you come in with another group of information. There's a whole lot of facts in these lives that you do, and I think that they're great for the community, for all of us.
That's the intent. Like as I was saying, in the early days, I was providing updates once or twice a day, etc. But those were off the cuff, etc. These are planned research, and we have a team, right? Like this is not going to work if it's just me. Like the team, there's a team executing on this, so I get their input. We work together. We rise together. Rising tide lifts all boats. That's what this is about.
Right.
So we're gonna work
Love
together
that saying.
Yeah, we had a guy. We had a guy at one time that would do it all by themselves, and we just had to go with what they said. So I like having the input. I like being here to discuss it with you. I like to be able to try to give the community an opportunity to speak, and that you're very open to some of the tough questions and some of the being honest about some of those questions too. Like you just don't know yet, or this is where we're at, and we'll have to see when we get there. So, but I don't have any other questions. You guys got anything?
Yeah, Nick, do you and the team have any plan for after the booster sales? I mean, obviously there's going to be some people that may want to resell them, like for an aftermarket. Like, have you spoken with any of the platforms like OpenSea or Tofu or any of those guys? Or
yeah, so I actually addressed that right here. You can buy and hold for future trading after Vitru Hub is launched, because Vitru Hub is a marketplace. You can list your booster there, and you can put whatever price you want. Because just think about it: you got your your booster at $150. You might want to go list it for $250.
there's always that guy. There's always that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing to prevent you from doing that, because the whole point of it is it's an NFT unto itself, and until its utility is applied, it is usable by anybody to boost their vesting. And even after it's been used, remember, it's still an artwork, so you might still want to get.
There's still some intrinsic value there. Yeah,
you got a high quality artwork for free. You might list it at whatever price you want, and especially if it's a well-known artist. Yeah, you can get, yeah.
Love it.
All right.
I like Southern Fried Anything. There is actually with my other startup, DNN, there's a group called Southern Fried DNN, and we'd meet regularly, and it was awesome because we talked about all kinds of community things. It was fun, but I like Southern Fried everything.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Unfortunately.
All right. Well, I got nothing else, and I don't see any other comments or anything like that. I see a
Good
couple
stuff.
of people talking, but you see something, guys?
No, there was a lot of information. I think there's going to be a lot of rewatching of this. I think you hit a couple of good points. You know, you went through when to expect it, how to expect it, why to expect it. I mean, good stuff. I'm looking forward to the next week or so. I expect to see what you're laying out here. Some of those boxes being checked. So keep it going, man. Good job.
Yeah. We'll bring back this slide and make it green all across the board. So
There it is.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up here for us. Unless anybody's got anything.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Nick. And it's obvious you and the team are pouring into the project, trying to get this thing off the ground. And we appreciate you, man, for your time, for your hard work. Thank you.
And I appreciate all of you and your support. I couldn't do this without you. I couldn't do this without the community. And keep the questions coming. Like I want to make sure that everyone's questions are answered and we progress together, because together we can change the world. We can make the world a better place.
And to me, you've always had that philosophy, and you never shy away from asking questions. So for me, I can't see why people are still so negative and just so, they want to see this thing burn down for whatever reason. It blows my mind.
It can be. I don't care. I'm positive. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, exactly. It's
doesn't matter to me.
Darwin, it says, I see a comment that says, why am I shadow banned? I mean, I haven't seen anything come up.
Obviously, you're commenting. So.
Yeah. Well, if we didn't get to it today, then hopefully we can get to it tomorrow, or just shoot it to me, or maybe we'll try to get you an answer to a question you got later. But we're gonna wrap it up here. If you guys got anything else, let me know. And thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Nick.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye-bye. And